Hey guys, Dan with Carly Suspension here. Behind me you'll see the truck with which you guys are becoming increasingly familiar, the 2019 Ram 2500. So this is the truck that we use to showcase the 2.5-inch lift coil springs and the custom-tuned Fox 2.0's front and rear that make up the Carly leveling kit. So we used this truck to run over what all that was in the previous video. Now you'll see the next step in our suspension system lineup. The Pintop system has been installed on this. So it uses the same 2.5-inch coil springs as our leveling system, but in the front we include the adjustable track bar, and then we round it off with custom-tuned King 2.5-inch shocks in the front and the rear of the truck, just throwing the capability of this truck through the roof compared to a 2.0 internal reservoir shock. So to start running over some of these changes with you, we ran over the factory track bar and how it's an upgrade over the previous year track bar. Well, it doesn't make up for the fact that your axle's off-center and it's not quite as robust as, say, a Carly track bar. So when you start throwing on the bigger wheel and tire combos, like you'll see now that we've upgraded this to a 37 by 13.5 with some 20-inch TR bead lock, street lock wheels. Becoming increasingly important is the track bar, right? You've now increased the capability of this platform tenfold over the internal reservoir Fox 2.0s by putting on the King 2.5-inch shocks. And we already ran over what it takes to custom tune a Carly suspension shock package, right? All the seat time it takes, the process with which we're so familiar now, and that is throw the shocks in once we spec them out, perfect travel length, so they bump out in the right location, they droop out to the right location of our coil springs, and once we spec that out, we get the reservoir hose the length that we need to put the reservoir where we want it. We then start the custom tuning process. Well, the Kings, we actually have quite a bit more flexibility. So instead of choose your available length from the parts that we have, like we get a lot with the Fox shocks, King says whatever cylinder length, whatever shaft length you want, whatever you want the shaft made out of, you guys let us know how to build this shock, get it on a blueprint, and then tell us where to go from there. So that's why the King shocks are usually the most travel of any of the offerings that we have here, because of our flexibility with that manufacturer. We start with a 17.4 stainless steel shock shaft. What does that mean for you guys? It means that there's no hardened chrome-plated shaft to chip and corrode. Anything that's chrome-plated will be robust for a while. Once the chrome starts to chip and reveal the hardened steel below it, then it's just a matter of time before it all flakes off. You either have to replace the shock or replace the shaft. So we love the 17.4 stainless steel shock shafts that we have on our King shocks. They also allow us to use our own proprietary piston. So instead of choosing the base flow rate from available pistons that they've got, we designed in CAD, like we do all of our other products, our own custom proprietary piston that determines the base flow rates that adapt this 2.5-inch diameter off-road race shock to fit this platform. So, we take this super robust shock, and instead of being an off-road race shock, well now, with our piston and our valving profile, we've turned it into a shock that perfectly controls, with a super robust construction, a heavy-duty truck. So once we have our piston set up, we take this thing with our valving profile. That's our first guess at what it needs to be, and it's a ton of on and off-road driving, park, remove the shocks, revalve, repeat until we're happy with the result around our spring rates and these platforms. It's usually going to be either a mega cab short bed or a quad cab short bed where we determine our tuning and all that. So there's a quick rundown of what we do with these King shocks. Because it's a 2.5-inch diameter body versus the 2.0 body, you must run the track bar with this kit. So you get quite a bit of lateral axle shift in any type of suspension that has a track bar. Well, in the front and rear of this 2500, you have a track bar. So because of that lateral movement, the body of that shock that's quite a bit larger diameter than the Fox 2.0, for example, or any 2.0 shock, is going to get closer to that frame as the axle shifts lateral through that stroke of vertical and lateral travel. So the track bar becomes imperative. So the Carly track bar here, as I mentioned a few different times, we're working on getting the final track bar produced to show you what that's going to be. We rigged up 4 track bars for the prototype trucks on which we're testing all of these suspensions. The joints are going to remain the same. It's just the construction of the track bar that might change a bit. So the Carly track bar has a cub joint on one end. What that means is the race-proven FK bearing 7/8 uniball on one end. We encapsulate that in a custom machined urethane so that it's got some vibration damping to it. We press that assembly in with a couple safety washers, and that gives you vibration damping around a race-proven uniball. On the other end, we've got a 7/8 by 7/8 FK bearing heat-treated chromoly race Heim. Same deal. It doesn't get any better in the Heim and uniball world than FK bearing. That's just a known fact in the off-road industry. So we use their products both on the frame and the axle end to secure that Heim joint into the axle end and make sure you never have any problems with your jam nut staying secure. We give you the proper torque spec, tell you to use red Loctite, and we use a jam it nut. The jam it nut is something that we designed to give you more clamping surface area than a standard jam nut. Now, there's nothing wrong with a standard jam nut, but a lot of shops don't know how to work with them. It's the same reason that you've got a recall on the 2014 Plus Dodge steering. There's nothing wrong with them, but a lot of shops aren't super familiar with them. So the more clamping force that you can provide, the more details you can provide on install, like use red Loctite, use this wrench, get this much leverage, use a crow's foot to get this much torque, whatever you can do to help the customer or the shop understand what the best way to install that product is, and the best that you can make that product, the better. So that's what we did on that track bar. Is again, we've got the vibration dampened 7/8 uniball on the frame end in that massive housing with a strap to make sure that cup is extra secure to that bar, fully welded on there. And then on the axle end, we've got that race-proven 7/8 by 7/8 FK bearing heat-treated chromoly Heim secured with our proprietary jam nut. And of course, we provide you all the misalignment spacers you need to perfectly space those in the bracket. It clears the pumpkin. Everything about this track bar is going to be refined and perfect when it hits the market. The prototype ones work, but we're figuring out a better way to produce this bar on a larger scale to make sure that it's replicatable for you guys. And it's a better bar when it hits the market. So in the front, you've got, again, the coil springs, you've got the front shocks, you've got our adjustable track bar. Ran over the tuning, ran over what the track bar does. Again, the very same coil springs that we use in our 2.5-inch leveling kit. In the back, it's the same as in just a shock change, but because of the sheer size of these shocks, the 2.5-inch King shocks, with the remote reservoir, we do have to provide you with little tabs that go off the pumpkin and then off the control arm bracket. So where your e-brake cable is secured to your axle mounts, we provide some spacers basically with the hardware to shift that e-brake cable around the reservoir on the passenger side, give you a little bit more clearance for that huge shock that you've got back there. What you can expect different from a 2.5-inch leveling kit? Well, the leveling kit is for the guy that's on a budget but wants a quality kit, and basically cruises the truck to work. Occasionally on the weekends might hit some fire trails or something at very, very low speed. It's going to be more capable than stock, both on-road and off, but is by no means a hard-charging off-road suspension. Well, the Pintop is no exception. So we've got the 4 custom-tuned King shocks, the front coil springs, the track bar, but the main difference in this Pintop from any other Pintop that we've ever done is that in the 2.5-inch lift range, we valve these shocks in the rear around the factory coil spring. What that means is you actually have factory travel in the rear with just a massive, more robust shock custom-tuned to that rear end. So for the guys that haul, they can't give up any payload capacity, and they're not worried about hard charging fire trails on the weekends and getting the most that they possibly can out of a softer spring and increased travel in the rear. They're more prioritizing hooking up to their trailer, having a perfectly controlled ride, with a low distribution hitch and a leveling kit, being able to level out that, 1,000 to 1,500 pounds of tongue weight in the rear and tow it perfectly controlled, even better than stock, because you've got that larger shock tuned to that factory spring that's a higher rate. This is your kit. So you take it out in the dirt, it's incredibly more nimble than the factory suspension, right? Or the even the Fox counterpart with the smaller shocks in it. But this kit, it's not designed to run a super light spring in the rear and get the most travel and most comfort and stay as planted as possible in the dirt. It does all of that well, not as well as our 3.25-inch lift Pintop system that's designed with our proprietary coil springs in the back, but this one outhauls that one 10-to-1. So if your emphasis is on loading the truck, using the truck as a tool, you don't want to run airbags or timbrins or some auxiliary load support in the rear end of that truck, then this is your kit. To kind of close out the video, you'll notice that this also has new wheels and tires on it. Well, a lot of that was because we were waiting for the track bar. With the axle shifted toward the driver's side with that other leveling kit that we offer with the Foxes, you're not getting ideal tire clearance because you're going to shift that wheel and tire combo on the passenger side closer to the factory radius arm and sway bar in the turning radius. With factory wheels and tires, not a problem. You go up to a 35, still not really a problem if you're not going to something with an aggressive side lug on the tire. But in this situation, CJC Off-Road dropped off, because this is their truck, a set of the 20 by 9.5 trail ready street lock wheels. In addition to that, some 37 by 13.5 Ridge Grappler tires. Because of the large wheel openings in these trucks, as well as the factory radius arm, which is inherently a type of long arm, the axle stays forward throughout the whole stroke of travel, unlike the old short arm trucks where it pulls back. So tire clearance really isn't an issue. You could run a 37 very easily on these trucks on the leveling kits. It takes minimal trimming of the lower plastic fender liner and the Laramie flare that you've got there to fit these tires throughout the whole stroke of travel. And then once you center up that axle, you've pushed the passenger tire back out so it's even with the driver tire, and now you've got equal clearance on both sides from the sway bar and the factory radius arm. So that's why we waited to put these wheels and tires they dropped off on this truck. They rub a little bit. We haven't trimmed this yet, but again, the trimming is very minimal. And for the guys that are asking, can I fit a 37-12.5 or 37-13.5 on just one of your leveling systems? The answer is yes, very minimal trimming is involved. But you'll see it really brings the look of this truck together. So now that we've got the 2.5-inch lift with the Kings, with the track bar, with the wheels and tires, you can start seeing conceptually the truck that most of our customers are trying to build here. This system fits a 2014 to 2018. It also fits the 19 Plus, with the caveat that we're waiting on the production track bar. So understand, we're still working on that. I know I already said it, but I really just want to drive it home that that's the only thing that's missing from this kit. We drove it, we love it, the thing rides phenomenal. Again, couldn't be more stoked that we don't have to take this thing out and retune it from the 14 to 18 platform. I know that this means that a lot of guys are going to be buying this system minus the track bar and waiting on the track bar. That's fine. I just wouldn't recommend throwing on those 37-13.5s, and just make sure you're looking out for your Kings and that they're not rubbing on the frame or doing any of that until you do get that Carly track bar on there. So I hope you found this video informative. If you've got any questions, again, hit that comment section, give us a call at the shop. We're happy to help you out any way that we can.